My mom, if I can even call her that anymore, has been lying to me my entire life. And guys, it took my dad's new wife, my stepmother, to bring the truth to light. And I don't know if I should hate her for it or be thanking her. Long story short, my mom is not really my mom. So, I went to confront her, and you won't believe what she told me she did when I was born. I am 18 years of age and female, and I'm torn between believing two women who claim to be my mother. I don't know what to do at this point because both of them sound truthful, and I'm really scared of making a mistake that will cost me my happiness. For the sake of clarity, I'll refer to both mothers by their first name. For all 18 years of my life, or for as long as I can remember, I've lived with Susan and two of my siblings. Susan is the perfect definition of a strict mother, and I didn't really have a life outside my education and part-time job. Other than that, I've had no reason to hate her, because she always gave me what I need and not wanted and showed up when she had to. However, there was one thing she could not do for me, and a small part of me resented her for that. I've always wanted to be a doctor. The concept of medicine has always fascinated me, and while I'm not a big person on opening up to people, I'm more than interested in finding out the cause of the problem, like a scientist. But guess who doesn't have the money to attend med school? I still hope to go, even if I have to drown myself in student debt. The reason I'm upset with my mother is because my late father was a wealthy man who left for another woman. According to Susan, they had been both in love until the other women came to take my dad away from us. If she had only fought for the man that she claimed to be in love with, our lives would have been better. Well, I guess things happened for a reason. If I had not lived the way I did, I never would have been a tutor for a middle school kid whose mother was a pathologist, and I would have never have been interested in it. I also would not have been as hardworking as I am, because in the beginning I planned to work hard and get the money I needed for med school, but that's not possible. I've saved a substantial amount of money over the years, but I'll tell you it won't do a lot once I actually finish college. It should also not come as a surprise that I hate my father. He actually passed 3 years ago, but it didn't mean anything to me because he was dead to my family for years. My mother did her best to support and take care of us, and we cannot care less about a man who couldn't even visit his children for once in his miserable life. I even look so much like him, compared to the rest of my siblings, who took after Susan. I won't lie, at some point I wish I had a father, but that, one that won't eventually just go away, and the thought of it died away. Anyways, I know who he is. After doing so much research on him, and my mother was right, he was wealthy enough to be mentioned in the papers a few times. I'd wonder if he had used his influence to keep my mom at bay, but that doesn't even matter anymore. It was a Saturday, I think, when Mallory, my other mother, came over to the house. I'm usually home alone on Saturdays until the evening time, and was surprised to see her at the door. The worst part was that I had not placed her face until she told me who she was. The woman my father left us for. I'd initially thought she was Susan's work colleague, and I told her to leave because there was no way I was going to let that woman ruin our lives and come inside this house. That was until she told me that she missed me and was sorry for letting me get to Susan. I was confused as hell, and when she brought out her wallet and retrieved a picture of her, and my late father holding a child who looked like me, my confusion grew. I called Susan and told her Mallory wanted to speak with her, but I still didn't let the woman in the house. I didn't feel guilty about it since she had a fancy car she could go wait in. It had dawned on me that all of the pictures I'd seen of myself as a child were from where I was 4 years old. Susan had refused to let me be a part of the meeting that she and Mallory were to have, but that did not sit right with Mallory, who kept saying I needed to hear the truth. Well, I did hear eventually, but a lot of things did not seem to add up. I wasn't a part of the meeting in the end, but I did get Mahler's contact without Susan knowing, of course, and I did my research, contacted a few people, and caught her when I was outside my home. And that was when I learned that she was my real mother, and not Susan. She also said that my father wasn't as evil as I made him out to be, and that Susan had come to ruin their marriage when I was a kid. I'd also done my research and found out that Mallory had been severely ill for years, and it corresponded with when I started living with Susan. It might have been shameful for her to talk about it, but it made her story more believable, or what seemed like the truth. And then there was a painful part, the one that I refused to accept. When Mallory told me that she was my birth mother, I didn't really care because I don't believe that family necessarily had to be blood. Well, despite being ill, why did she finally remember her own daughter after so long? It made no sense to me, and I had half the mind to cut off all contact with her. And it felt like I was stabbing Susan in the back. And even though Susan was the one who tried to ruin my real mother's marriage, she had done more than enough by taking care of me, until I learned that she had been paid over the years to cater for me. Mallory had sent me payment invoices and bank statements from the past 2 years, all of which proved that my mother had in fact been receiving money from my father, and subsequently from Mallory after his death. I've also realized that I've never seen my mom's place of work, and that all the older people that came over were her friends from God knows where. I also want to point out that I don't completely trust either of them. It's hard for me to believe Mallory completely when she's been absent for most of my life. Then how exactly do I defend Susan, who's been receiving financial help from my father and claiming that she had been working to cater for us? I don't know who my real mother was, but I'm going to find out the truth starting with a DNA test. Mallory has actually been completely banned from coming over to my place, and Susan is not really stupid, but I'll do my best if one comes out negative. It simply means that the other will be positive. Right. Finally, before I wrap things up, is it possible to tell who is my mother from everything I've stated? I mean, I've tried really hard to think about it over and over, because I don't want to spend my money on a test if common sense can provide me with the best answer, but I keep finding faults and holes in both stories. Susan is already suspicious of me and keeps coming into my room multiple times just to find out what it is I'm doing, something she hardly ever did before. And as for Mallory, she says hello and asked about my day often. But when it comes to telling me why she left me with Susan for years, there's no reply. She told me that she'll visit again, and that if Susan refuses, she'll have to involve the authorities. But something still feels off. Should I go along and have the DNA test done? Or do I just have to wait and let things play out? I mean, guys, what the hell would you do? Update number 1. I no longer live in my former home. Mallory came over to pick me up after I'd called her. Plus, it's not like I'm still a child. Susan can do whatever she wants now that I know that she's nothing but a liar and a thief. Remember the DNA test that I said that I've done? I didn't do it, but I still have had it in my mind. Susan found out that I'd planned to do a DNA test on both of us after catching me snooping around in her room. In my defense, she made sure all the dishes and laundry were done on time, and watched me like a hawk whenever I was outside my room. It's times like these that I wish my siblings were not in college. I'd have been tested against them instead, and not Susan. I left the house to follow her one day, and she usually left for work at about 8 in the morning, and I left for school before then, but I decided to skip school and follow her to her workplace. To my surprise, there was nothing of the sort. A workplace to be exact, unless she worked at some apartment building. I couldn't follow her in, and just to avoid getting caught. But I did get to learn that she regularly visits a man inside that building from somebody who claimed to be a neighbor. Later that day, it was funny to hear her tell me work was fine, like she usually did when I asked. I eventually got called in the act when my school mentioned my absence to my mother. And while my first instinct was obviously to lie, I told her what I had saw that day. She didn't deny it, but did not say anything else. And when I threatened to leave the house, she yelled in my face to leave because I was becoming too much of a burden. So I did, and Mallory was overly excited to have me. As she said, she came over But she did have to do much because Susan let her make arrangements to take me away. The days I spent in my former home before I left were awkward as hell because Susan became distant. I'd even caught her crying the day before I was to go, and that made me almost change my mind. But I wanted to see for myself if Mallory was truthful. Plus, if I made up with Susan, the chance to leave might have been non-existent. Mallory is an amazing person, by the way. Her lifestyle is a lot more extravagant than what I'm used to. What with having people feed me, then there were the outings as well. She also checks up on me whenever she's around and has told me that a lawyer would be coming over to see me in a few days, for reasons known to him and my late father. He had visited once the lawyer, as he's sweet but a strict man in his late 40s. So we didn't talk much, but he wasn't pleased to hear something that I told him. I'm not entirely sure what it was, but I hope to ask him when I see him next. I've also had a number of visitors come by claiming to be friends with my late father and mere acquaintances. It's one of the things that I don't really like about being here. The other being Simon. There's a man who I've seen with Mallory a few times since coming here, and I don't know who they are, but I'm sure that they're not married yet. Then there's the way that he looks at me like he wants to eat me or something. It reminds me of a predator, and I'm just uncomfortable with it. I wasn't even happy with the fact that she was seeing someone else when I was finally living with her and had made trouble because of it. Mallory had taken her time to make me understand. And, in the end, I had to give in. I couldn't expect her to live as a widow after finding love again just because I'm her daughter. Her taste in men does not make much sense to me. But I'll live with it as long as Simon doesn't make any moves I'm uncomfortable with. When he does, I'll open my mouth. Consequences be damned. By the way, I've gotten strands of Mallory's hair, and will be taking them to a laboratory. She isn't as meticulous as Susan, thankfully, and I have more free will in this house than I had living with Susan. As much as I adore Mallory, I have to find out the truth. I'll let you guys know all about it soon. Update number 2. I know who my mother is now. Funny enough, I wasn't surprised when the results were out. It was like I'd known all along and just kept lying to myself after the hurtful things that she had told me. Plus, there's the fact that she had kept me only for the money that she had been paid. So, going back to Susan didn't matter. My goal now is to find out why Mallory lied about being my mom. Susan visited once, and by the way, 3 days after I'd gotten Mahler's hair from her room, and as fate would have it, I was the only one home. Aside from the help, I had not wanted to see her, of course, and had asked to have her sent away. I should have expected it, because she had been calling non-stop till I blocked her, of course. But after hearing her struggle with the help, I went out to my room to tell her to leave. She told me then that Mallory was lying about being my mother, because she had plans to steal from me before handing me a Ziploc and walking out on her own. That was how I got her hair as well. I had the test done the next day, and I also told Mallory about it, after the help had mentioned the drama, and she told me she'd file a restraining order against Susan, but knowing Susan, she won't be coming here again. By the way, Simon tried to touch me. It was during a dinner that Mallory made me attend against my will to get me to see that he wasn't as bad of a person as I thought he was. When she excused herself to make us get to know each other better, he started by holding my hand and eventually getting closer to me. I pushed aside my paranoia, telling myself that some people did not understand the concept of space, and answered his questions. I turned cold when I felt his hand on my jean thigh, and made sure to excuse myself as well, telling Mallory that I wasn't feeling very good. And when I'd tell her the next morning I'd been slapped right before I left for school, she yelled at me for lying about Simon, and warned me never to do that again, telling me that Simon had made sure to tell her what I'd done when we were alone. I've had a mind to find the man and show him how insane I can be when I'm angry. He's Mahler's problem now. She'll find out that I'm telling the truth sooner or later. I'd forgotten all about the test that I'd run till the day I was slapped. After checking for the results in my mail, I was almost relieved. Susan had been a strict mother, but the worst she'd ever did was yell and curse at me. However, despite knowing I was in no way related to Mallory by blood, I remained quiet and accepted her apology when she came over to talk to me, claiming she was a bit hung over from the dinner. And soon after that, I found out that I was the owner of millions of dollars left behind by my dad. I wasn't to have total access to it until I was deemed worthy of spending it all wisely. But all in all, it was the best thing that had happened to me since Mallory showed up in my life. And yes, I spoke to the lawyer. He told me not to trust Mallory so much. And I'd add said he was pleasantly surprised when I told him that I knew she wasn't really my mother. But I can't be sure because he had a way of hiding his emotions and talking even less. Mallory, on the other hand, is none the wiser, talking to me about how I'll take care of my late father's empire and even start something of my own. She mentioned having a business idea, one I co-run with her, and I'm starting to wonder if that's the reason she has me around. From what I've seen, she has her own money, so she can't be after mine, can she? There's something that I'm missing, and I hope I see it soon, because I'm losing my patience with my fraud of a mother. Update number 3. Hey everybody. I'm living with Susan again. It's not something like I enjoy doing, but I could not stay with Mallory any longer when I found out the truth. It was like choosing to live with a hyena over an unruly dog. Mr. Smith, Mahler's neighbor, was the first to show me who Mallory really was. I usually saw him when I stepped out in the evening as he got some fresh air, and had denied all his requests to have me over for tea. Honestly, I found it strange that somebody I barely knew kept asking me to come over, but I finally decided to oblige him. Actually, I'd wanted to know if he knew anything about the use of Mallory's character because the help would not tell me anything, and the lawyer was as tight-lipped as they came. Mr. Smith did, in fact, know something. He knew a lot, having been a friend of my late father. I wondered why I was just learning this, but when he told me he disliked Mallory, I had a feeling that it was mutual. She was apparently an excellent liar and wanted to take back what she had lost by giving me up when I was 4. So, here's what the story says. My father had been in love with Susan after realizing that Mallory had lied to him before getting married to him because of his wealth. She couldn't get pregnant for anyone, and after finding Susan, who happened to be another liar he had fallen for, and she had me. It turned out that Susan was divorced with 2 children and an ex-husband who could not care less about them. And that's why she was only with my father, because he could take care of them. And yes, she had tried to steal my father from Mallory, but he was heartbroken when he found out that he was the only one who had invested his emotions into the relationship. Long story short, my father left Susan, who had given me up, not wanting another burden. And well, I lived with Mallory and my father till Mallory herself became sick of me. Remember her illness that was drug addiction? My father had her placed in an institution under the guise of her being sick for the media. And guess who shipped me back to Susan? My father. He didn't want me anywhere near Mallory. And in return for taking care of me, she received good money so she did not have to work. While Mr. Smith isn't sure he believes my dad died because he was severely depressed. It sounds like such an interesting story. And for the first time in my life, I pied my father. I never gotten to know him because of 2 selfish women that he had the misfortune of falling in love with. And that's something that I would never forgive them for. Granted, I still have this negative feeling toward him, but I'm sure he did what he did because he believed it was best for me. Plus, it explains Mallory's character a lot. This is why I don't like people who were overly sweet most of the time. They're actually the worst kind of people. I don't know if the help ever mentioned me visiting Mr. Smith when Mallory was out, but Mallory never said a thing about it. I guess they're not her biggest fan either, and only do as they're meant to because they get paid for it. I have eventually left the house when I overheard Mallory one night. She must have left the bedroom door open and was probably drunk as a skunk, something she was fond of doing, But I pretended not to notice it, and the woman will be broke very soon. Anna needs me, or better yet, my money, to live the lavish life she deserves. She had plans to speak to me about money and talk to the lawyer about letting me have some of it for businesses that she had shut up about for the past 6 weeks. I don't even know much about it. And when I ask, she tells me it's about fashion and that I don't need to worry much about the details. Then it sounded suspicious, and now this sounds just like a scammer. No wonder she's with someone like Simon. It makes perfect sense now. My departure was not a very stressful one. I just had to make sure that I stepped out when she wasn't home. No one stopped me, and I don't even think that they could if they wanted to. I made sure to see Mrs. Smith before leaving. He told me to call if I needed anything. Bless his soul. Susan wasn't surprised to see me. I guess she had been waiting for me to return after handing me her hair. But the atmosphere was different. Still, it was way better than staying with Mallory. I'm almost sure Susan has something up her sleeve, and I'm almost excited to see what it is. Update number 4. Both mothers are out of my life for now, and as much as it pains me to be alone, I'll have to learn to adapt. I still have a problem I'm currently facing, though. I have a stalker. Something keeps telling me that this is someone I know, but I can't be sure. 2 days after living with Susan, I'd caught her going through my things after sending me on an errand. She had not seen me watch her as she went through my bags, and I went back down and pretended not to have seen anything afterward. Mr. Smith had suggested leaving any important documents with my dad's lawyer, and not himself, which made me trust him even more. When I called and told him what had happened, he told me to put an end to the pretense as soon as I could, because sooner or later, both women would stop playing nice and might attempt to hurt me. Mallory had contacted me on the very day that I left the house. In fact, I told her where I was and made her understand that Susan would have her head if she came to the house without being asked. She had to then begin to curse both me and herself, and spoke about the restraining order, something I had not even remembered. She had not gone to the station at all, proving to me how little value her words actually held. Fortunately, in the end she had complied, and calling her to come over was like torturing myself. She had asked so many questions, and when I promised to answer them, and even faked an apology with it, she had agreed to come. Susan was home on most days, since she did not have to put up with the facade of having a job anymore. I've been just too afraid of meeting with both of them at once, and have told this to Mr. Smith before confessing how violent Mallory can actually get. Well, besides that, he had been worried before coming up with the plan. His nephew, who goes by the name of Andrew, who had just moved to town, was an officer that I could have around, under the guise of being my boyfriend. I'd met with him a few times before the meeting, and he was just as nice as his uncle. I'd also kept a lawyer informed about everything, because you can never have too many witnesses. I mean, don't you think? Now, it was a good thing to have Andrew present, of course. Despite the initial reluctance from both women, and not knowing who he was and why he was inside of our house, after telling them that I would not tell them the plans that I had for my money, they became quiet. All that changed when I told them that I planned to go to medical school, and that giving them even $1 was far from it after all the deceit and plans that they had to take it away. And as expected, Mallory tried to strike. Yeah, she tried to strike but was immediately apprehended by Andrew. She had then hit Andrew, who must have underestimated her and tried to come for her again. I dodged the attack that she threw, and Andrew had taken her away in handcuffs. She had stayed at the station for 2 days after battering a police officer and cursing at some of them at the station. As for Susan, she had asked me to leave the house as soon as possible, and I didn't see her before I left. Most likely, she was with the man that she went to visit. I'd stayed at Mr. Smith's for some time, and I didn't mind since it was somewhere I was familiar with. He had a maid who helped him due to his age, and I had not even noticed this when I visited, but was still a very capable man. When I told him about my dreams to be a doctor, He had been pleased and told me to discuss things with my father's lawyer. It was around that time that I started to receive threats from an unknown number. I'd almost reported it, but when the person started to ask the whereabouts of my money, I realized it was someone who knew me well enough. Unfortunately for me, my time with Mr. Smith was cut short when we got robbed. We all hid in the guest room while we heard bangs and crashes, and after I called the police, they fled upon the arrival. The maid was slightly injured because she was the one he made contact with the robbers. And when she told me that they had asked for the money, I knew it was me they were after. They weren't caught, despite having stolen a few things. And my paranoia made me leave for a motel because I don't want the guilt of anybody getting hurt because of me. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask Andrew for his help. There's a high chance my stalker is linked to the robbery, and whoever it is going to pay this time. Update number 5. Hey everybody. So, the drama in my life is over, and I can now focus on my studies and finish school well. And a few of my tests went bad because of the inheritance issue, and my mistake was really drawing out the time it took me to actually act. Andrew and a few other members of the police, who of course knew my father or Mr. Smith, handled the case. And guess who has been messaging me? Simon. In a way, I'm glad it was him because at least I now have a valid reason to have him put behind bars. His accomplice, of course, was Mallory. After agreeing to meet up to avoid being severely harmed on my way back from school, Simon was immediately apprehended by the cops who were with me. He had not wasted any time before confessing that Mallory had put him up to both the threats and the robbery. They're both spending some good time in prison, and by the time they're out, I should be far away in college. As for Susan, I should call her my mom, but she hasn't really been one to me after the truth came to light. I did see her before I left, and some part of me wanted to give her money, because she did take care of me for years, but I'm afraid I'll never stop. She told me not to see her again, and has plans to be with the man that she's been seeing, John. In fact, her exact words to me were, and I quote, "I want to start something anew with him. For the first time since I've had you, I feel free. Your siblings will most likely be a part of my new life, one I don't want you in." She had said it in such a way that made it seem like I was responsible for her decision. But after crying my little eyes out for days, I decided to let it go. I'm not alone. I have Mr. Smith and Dad's lawyer and my friend from school. It's a sad list, but only one that I'll accept and love. I now know that Susan has no money and that John is a man of average means, and my half-siblings keep telling me to come home because my mother misses me. But that won't be happening. She had even sent a text to me telling me that she needed some money to care for her home and call me heartless, but I blocked her. All I care about now are my goals and the people that stood by me when I needed them.